I will not review. I mean, I have reviewed the homework from last week. Oh, actually, I had a couple of people that I identified their work to show you guys. Couple of work documents were really, really good, right? Other than just tiny little changes, but other than that, like this one by Mahfouz was really, really good, right? You know, he has obviously name, date, and the document name and objective and proper documentation. I will say, right, when you're submitting homework, whenever you're sharing something, make sure it's presentable, because you will be going to a professional environment and you need to make sure your documentations are looking good, presentable, bug-free, no spelling error, and overall like looks good. So this was very, very good. One of those documents that I had to identify. There was another one, Taizul Islam. I think he also did great job. If you look at his documentation, overall it was very, very good. I probably have one more. Parul, sister Parul Begum. She also did awesome. So she even had her team name, date, homework. Everything adds up, you know, everything adds up. So it's just extra effort here and there, which we should consider. So that doesn't mean others didn't do a good job. All of you guys did. Most of you guys did very, very good job. Some of you probably didn't want to write your own words. You just copied and paste, which I was able to identify, but I would recommend and encourage you to write homeworks in your own wordings. It's going to help you. Trust me, if you feel like that, you know, I know this stuff, I don't need to write it. These extra efforts, writing it over and over again, taking notes in the class, it will help you. You may not see it now, you may not understand it, it will help you. In my time when I learned it, there was not really a computer. I mean, computer was there, obviously. I don't want to sound like, you know, very old, but I you know, Google was, we rarely use Google. I used to take notes, hundreds of pieces, notes, paper notes. I have piles of them still. So it helped me at that time. I felt like it was very, very difficult and hard work. But, you know, looking back, it was, I wouldn't do it any other way. It was very, very helpful. So guys, I would recommend take notes, do your part. Don't, there is easy or shortcut never help you. So try to do that. Okay. Okay, so all right, moving on. Test plan overall, it was okay. Now going back to STLC, we are learning about STLC, right? STLC, we have learned about analysis of the requirement. We have learned about creating test plan. Now we're going to move on to creating test cases. Any questions before we move on? Okay. So moving on to test cases, guys, test case, create system test case. If you look at this, test cases, the test case development phase gets started once test planning phase is completed. In this phase, testing team will note down the detailed test cases. When the test cases are prepared, and then they are reviewed by the quality assurance team. This is the definition. Okay, so another word, test cases are, let me see if I have any better wording. System test case. I should have better wordings. Okay, so test cases, right? So the first answer was written by one of the students from last batch. I forgot who it was. So definition of test cases, if you look at it here, it's written two different ways. First one is there's a step-by-step process of testing a requirement. This should tell you everything you need to know about test cases. We know what is a requirement. And now we know what is a test case. So test case directly related to the requirement. So you have the requirement and you test it. How do you test it? By test cases. And what is test cases? It's a step-by-step process to test a requirement. Does it make sense, guys?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Another word, test case is a set of action executed to verify a particular feature or functionality or software application. Test case contains description, test steps, test data, expected result, actual results, status, date created by. So this is more of a detailed answer, more technical. But if you need to understand what is test case, this one line is good enough. Obviously, before you understand test cases, you need to understand the requirement. I'm assuming you guys do understand both of them. So definition of test cases are there. Moving on. So this is how we design test cases. We designed test cases. This is just an example. We'll work on test cases today. So this is, sorry, first one is requirement, right? We created a requirement and this is the test case. You can, this is how it looks like. So today we're gonna be doing the most hands-on keyboard writing. In terms of, some of you reached out and asked me questions like how much writing do we have to do in this? I'm not comfortable with writing and things like this. You really don't have to be, you really don't have to be worried about this. Most of your writing is done today only. And most of the writing comes from the requirement. So most of the time you'll be copying what's in the requirement and you're pasting in different places. And I will show you how it's done. Just converting a few words here and there. It's pretty easy, guys. You know, it's not rocket science. It's pretty easy. It'll be able to get it done easily. So for now, ignore these two. We'll do this step by step, but just for your reference, this is how test cases look like. This is our requirement look like. And you guys have seen requirement in multiple different ways. Okay, so let's see what else. Okay, so still in the test cases, and this is the definition of test cases. So before we create test cases, we need to look at our requirement. What is the requirement and what is it that we're going to test? And this is the requirement we're going to be working on today. So look at this. So this is the application URL is given here, and then you have requirement 001, requirement 002, requirement 003, and you have your requirement 004. So these are the requirements we are going to be working on. We're going to start with a couple of them, and then I will, as you feel comfortable with this, I will give you rest of them as a homework. So first, understand what is the requirement. Before you write test cases, you need to understand your requirement. Test cases, like I said, is directly related with the requirement. Test cases comes from requirement. And now you need to understand your requirement so that you can go and create your test cases. When test cases comes your way, sorry, when requirement, I just mixed up those words. When requirements comes your way, you need to understand those requirements. Now you have 4 requirements here. Let's not understand all of them at once. Let's understand one by one. And what is your first requirement? First requirement, if you see RQ stands for requirement 001, your requirement is user shall be able to navigate to home and sign on page. So what it's saying, you're going to home page, and from home page, you should be able to navigate to the sign on page. That's all. And where on this application? Very, very simple. Your requirement, user should have the ability to navigate to the sign on page from the home page. And this is your application. The URL is here. And then requirement continues. It's saying supported browsers are latest versions of Chrome and Edge. So it's saying that my application should work on these 2 browsers. Is this requirement clear, guys?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Cool. So let's understand this requirement first, and then we're going to see how we can create test cases out of this. Let's go to that application. Usually, one other thing, right now you have the application available, but when you go to actual work, most of the time you don't have application available. You're only going to be working with the requirement and this design document or the screenshot or the mockup, whatever they provide. But in these cases, to make it helpful to you, I want to show you the application. So this is your application. And what they're saying here, when the user comes here, he should be able to click on this sign-on page and navigate to the sign-on page. That's all they're saying. You see the difference? The home page is here, and click on this sign-on page and the user navigates to the sign-on page. That's all they're asking for. And they're saying, okay, this should be supported by these two browsers only. Done. So now you understood the requirement. Now let's go create test cases. Before you create test cases, now once you understood this, you need to create your scenarios. How many different scenarios can you create out of these test cases? And what is scenarios? It's how many different ways you can test it, right? So you guys as a tester, your job is to break this application. Your job is not to make this application. You as a tester, your job is to break this application. Just understand this, guys. This is very, very hard concept. A lot of us, we think we should be the ones like making this application and keeping it together and making it work. No, we are on the opposite side. That's developer's job. Creating it, maintaining it, making sure it's working. But us, we get paid to break it. How do you break it? By being creative, by testing it many different ways. And it could be any different ways. I can show you like so many ways we can test it. Endless amount of ways we can test this. And some of the way we will test an application, it might sound silly, but it's reality. You as a tester, your job is to break this application. That's it. If you can break it, you're successful. You're a good tester. So understand this. Do not ever think the application works, they build it, or do not ever think, okay, assume that it's working. Do not ever think like, you're part of maintaining and making it work. Your job is to break it. And it's very hard for people, a lot of people, to have this kind of mentality, but as a tester, you have to have it. So we understood the requirement, and now we're going to create test scenarios first. Forget about test cases. We're just going to come up with the scenarios. Now, looking at it, I'm just going to open another Word document side by side to see how many scenarios or how many ways we can test it. So this is my requirement, right? User shall be able to navigate to the home page. I'm going to copy it here. User shall be able to navigate to the home page. Home page, sign-in page. How many ways can we test it, guys?
2 ways.
Tell me how.
Because you have to test it in both Chrome and Edge.
Correct. So,
Can
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so you said that to test it as many ways as we can. So even if the requirement says it's supported by Chrome and Edge, should we also try different browsers?
You should, in this case, so you have to do positive and negative scenarios, right? So assume our condition is supported browser are Chrome and Edge only. When I say only, what does that mean?
Just those two browsers.
Nothing
I mean,
else.
no, it's only, yeah.
So we are limiting our application to these two browsers only, right? Nothing else.
Yeah,
So that scenario, obviously, when you're testing something, you have to have your negative and positive scenarios. So what would be your negative scenarios here?
When you say negative scenarios, are you talking about scenarios that this test would not work? Is that what you mean by?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so trying it on Firefox, for example.
Exactly. So I am saying my application should be limited to these browsers only, nothing else. But in reality, right, the more I'm just in this scenario, in this requirement, we don't have any negative scenarios. I'm just being creative and creating negative scenarios for you guys to understand what is negative scenarios. But in real environment, the more browser and application supports, it is a positive thing. It is better, right? But for this testing and learning sake of it, we are going to limit this to just these two browsers. Okay, so first, let's be positive. Let's write our test scenarios for positive scenarios only, right? So this is my requirement. User should be able to navigate to this page, right? So if you need to write your test cases, all you need to do, verify user shall be able to navigate to home page and the sign-in page using any of this browser, right? That's it, done. This is your one scenario. That's all the writing you had to do, verify, and that's it. What would be your next scenarios, positive case, guys?
Verify user shall be able to navigate to home/sign-on page using Microsoft Edge or
That's it.
Edge.
That's it, done, right? How simple is that? Your two scenarios. These are two positive scenarios. Now give me a negative scenario.
Verify user shall not be able to navigate to a home sign-on page using Firefox.
So done. So we came up with 3 scenarios. Do you think this satisfies this requirement in terms of testing?
I think it does.
It pretty much does. But if you
And,
were
as
sorry.
far as it's saying latest versions, are we going with, because it could be that there's a version that just came out, but the previous versions are also being used on Chrome, like until the updates go through with different machines.
So that's a very good point. So Chrome finish updating, yeah. Okay, so this is my latest version of the Chrome. Right, this is my version. So when you're testing, you want to make sure that this is the latest version out there, and also as your test data or test evidence, you want to provide this information saying that I have tested this functionality using this browser version. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so here they are saying they're not worried about older version. They're saying latest version. So at the time of testing, whatever the latest version is, you're gonna use that and provide that evident. Cool. So this is, we think like this is fine, right? Do we think this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
This is good. This is good enough. This is good enough, but we could do more. We could do more, and I'm going to give you more examples, right? So as a tester, you can do a lot more. You can do a lot more with this, right? You can fully maximize your browser and see if this works the same way. You can adjust your browser to see if this breaks. You can use there are other techniques that you could use here as well. I forgot, but
can you go directly to the sign-on page without going to the home page?
you go to, okay, so you see here you have other options as well, like resizing. In terms of resizing those, you see like different resolution you have here. You can play with this and see where it breaks, but don't go crazy right now. I am just telling you, we could always do more as a tester. Don't worry about these things right now. You guys are good. What you said before is good enough. Sorry, brother, somebody said something. Sorry, you said, can we go directly to the sign-in page? You can, but here the requirement is saying navigate from the home to the sign-in page. but you could also go directly and test that out. I'm just following the requirement.
So as an example, right? So you can say verify user shall be able to navigate to home or home to sign on page using Chrome while window is maximized or minimized. We can say that as a test case.
Windows is resized. or
Resized. Okay.
Resized and one case is for fully maximized.
Okay.
But right now, I'm just showing you extra steps. A lot of UI related application breaks when you do those things. But right now, this is fine. Let's just work with these 3 scenarios, right? So these are 3 scenarios. We're going to take one scenarios at a time. Are we clear so far? It's important you guys understand what is the requirement, how to break requirement into scenarios, and how to test each one of those scenarios. Are we good, guys? Any questions?
We're good.
So far, it's good.
Okay, cool. So moving on. So from the test cases, oh man, I'm just keep mixing. From the requirement, before we make test cases, we have created scenarios. So we're going to grab these scenarios and complete this scenario. I have created this Excel sheet. Okay. All right. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Let me know if you're able to see this. Visible? Is it visible? The Excel sheet, is it visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
so
I have one more thing, if I could add on.
yeah,
Is now we're testing on a Windows machine. What about, or are we supposed to be testing on Linux or Mac or?
so Mac is out of the question because you're saying that your application is supporting only Chrome and Edge, right?
Okay.
And Linux is, this is a UI based application.
Hmm.
You're not testing in Linux or Unix.
No.
Okay, so we're doing one scenario, this scenario first, right? So we'll put the scenario right here and design it. This is how your test case design look like. This is a template. Your test case obviously should have numbers, scenarios, or description, and the steps and the expected result. So we have created the scenario together. Now let's create the rest of them. Obviously the number would be 1, right? Test case number. We're just writing one test case here first, and then we'll take it from there. And what is the first test case? Scenario is verify user shall be able to navigate to the sign-in page using Chrome browser. And what are the steps? Steps are nothing but every single step you take to get there. It's your action item, every single steps that you take to get there. So now how do you to achieve this? What are the steps you're gonna take? So step 1, right? What would be your step 1, guys? Someone tell me what.
Open Google
Open
Chrome.
Chrome.
Open the Chrome, right? What is your second step?
Enter the URL.
Okay, so your second step, the URL, and you just copy the URL from your application, right? Copy hyperlink. What is your third step?
Click sign on.
No, you're entering.
Navigate to
URL?
home.
No. Okay, so let me just show you. So I open the,
Click
Press
enter.
enter.
and then you enter the,
Enter here.
enter the URL. And then now it's not, nothing is going to happen if you don't do
Oh, press
the
enter. Okay.
Okay, hit on the enter key, right? Okay. Hit the- Okay, what is your fourth step?
Navigate
on
to
the sign on.
homepage.
So your fourth step is click on the sign in button. So here you go. So I'm going to click on that, click on the sign in button. Click on the sign in button, right? Then what happens? What is your fifth step?
You press enter.
No, you click, you're not entering, you're clicking, like you're clicking.
There's this.
Verify user landed on the sign-on page.
Okay, so your fifth step is nothing but this one, just copy this. You're comparing fifth step with your actual scenario. So here you, instead of shell, you can say verify user is able to navigate to the home page, right? Or shall be is fine, shall be able to. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So how many of you are confused about test cases? This is very straightforward and simple, but let's talk about it if you have any questions, concerns.
So I
None.
have one question.
Yeah.
So you would also have to test Edge, right? So all you do is basically just wherever it says Chrome, you just replace that with Edge for the next scenario, right? And
Yeah,
the
so stick to this, stick to this. So we're verifying this scenario. Let's talk about this scenario. We're gonna go to next scenario later. Let's stick to this scenario first. This scenario is we are verifying, we're validating, we're able to navigate to the sign-on page using Chrome. Now, do we understand this workflow? Do we understand this process? Are there any questions? Should we spend more time here?
Brother, we're not gonna go through the home button here, home page or home button, because the requirement says from home to sign on.
Yeah, so you're going, okay, hit the enter button, click and we did right here, look. When you do this, right, when you do this, you're already on the home page. You're already on the home page. This is direct URL to your home page. I don't need to do anything extra to go to the home page. When I hit enter here, I'm already in the home page. I need to go to the next page, which is the sign on button.
Okay.
Are we crystal clear on this? This is your job as a QA, designing test cases. Most of it is copy and paste, maybe 5 to 10% you're writing, but most of it, as you saw, is copying and pasting. But do we understand this? Are we clear on this?
Yeah.
So it seems like no one has any questions.
Are we still are we talking about the next column yet? The expected result portion?
Yeah, we're gonna go there, but
Okay.
okay. So when we are verifying this one against this one, what do you think is gonna happen?
The user should be able to navigate to the home sign-on page using Chrome.
Expected is nothing but this. This is what I'm expecting. I don't need the step number 5 there. It's just here. I'm verifying this against the scenario. These are my steps. This is what I'm expecting. And this is my scenario.
Makes sense.
Clear, right? Crystal clear.
All right.
Yep, crystal clear.
All right, let's go grab the next scenario. And we're going to test the next scenario. Where is the next scenario? Okay, so next scenario is this. So you're saying I'm going to do the same thing using Firefox only. No, Edge, using Edge. So I really don't need to do much. I just need to copy and paste and open Edge. Okay. What do you think? Is it good?
Looks good.
Yeah, looks good.
Done. Let's do the next one. This is a negative one, right? I don't want my application to load or work using Firefox. Right? So Let's go here. A lot of copying. Open Firefox. Have you did it and the same page? What are you expecting?
I don't want
Was
work.
not able to sign on page.
Not, right?
Yeah.
Able to view or see or access, right? Wherever user is not able to view sign on page.
It probably wouldn't work on the homepage at all, right? So you'd never get to the sign up.
True, but we are not validating homepage.
Okay.
We are focusing on the sign on page only. This is our requirement. So you can simply say user shall not have access to the sign on page. That should be fine. Anyhow, any which way you want to word it, it's your decision. It's totally up to you. But this is pretty straightforward, and these are the wording that I use.
Here the word would be Firefox instead of Edge.
Correct. So these two are positive scenarios. This one is my negative scenario. How easy is that?
It's very easy.
All right, next go. Do another requirement, and you guys gonna navigate me testing, creating test cases for the next one. So next one, requirement, we're done with requirement 001. Next one, moving on to requirement 002. Requirement 002 is sign on page. So this is the sign on page. We are saying, what is the requirement? We are saying this page shall have below text displaying right below sign on header. Welcome back to the Mercury Tours, enter your blah, blah, blah. All we are saying, when we go to the sign on page, we want to see this text displaying. And again, it's supported browsers are latest version of the Chrome and Edge. Done. So Firefox, Edge, open the Chrome. Remember, just one thing for educational purpose, I just want to show you. They mentioned the latest version of the Chrome. So what you want to do is just grab this. Since they mentioned, right, you can just put this under here. So this is just additional information you're providing. So, you know, your evidence are there, which version you tested on. Okay, so this is very, very straightforward, right? All we are saying when we're on the sign-in page, we want to see this text. That's all. Now look at this and look at this. This is your requirement. I want you to spend 2 minutes. Look at this side by side and see if you have any questions. Look at this. This is the application view and this is your requirement view. Do you see any questions? Do you see anything that you want to raise?
Yeah, so in the
That's
requirement,
the
right?
link
It
text.
says in the requirement it says welcome back to Mercury tours. That's not bold, but in the website it's bold. So does that have to be something that should be announced?
Yeah, that's a good catch. Okay, we'll talk about it. Anyone else? Do you have any other questions?
There is a link test registration form that is in blue.
Thank you. Okay, so you see, these are the requirement gaps. And quickly, you guys were able to identify 2 of them. And I purposely left it like this to kind of educate you guys when it comes to requirement analysis, the things we have to do, the little things you have to pay attention to. This is a crucial phase, right? You cannot just assume something. Whatever you see here, that this doesn't make sense, with your design document, you need to raise it. You look at this. This is your design document. is not matching with this one, right? So you need this to make it bold, right? So done. And secondly, this is, do we have this? Please fill the registration form. So this should be a hyperlink, right? This should be hyperlink, but it's not hyperlink in our case. It's not hyperlink. It did not mention it should be hyperlink, but we should test it as such. Okay, so good. Understanding requirement is done. Moving on, let's create our scenarios. So let's go here. How do we go about this, guys?
Would you
Uh,
just say verify the page shall have the below text displaying? You write the requirement and then at the end write via Chrome.
Okay, so we can just take this, right? So this is our scenario. Verify what?
that the following text appears right under the header.
Verify when user is on the sign-on page, right?
Right.
Sign-on page. Verify when user is on the sign-on page. Text must just try to keep it simple. I do not want to complicate anything for you guys. So this is one scenario, right? When using Chrome. So one scenario is done. What is your next scenario?
You would just take the same one and replace Chrome with Edge.
Done. Using Edge browser. Okay. What else you want to verify here?
Negative. The negative scenario, meaning with Firefox.
Okay, so let's not go there now because here we did not say only supported browsers are these two. We did not limit them, right? We left them open. So this requirement is not bounded, you see?
Okay, okay.
But luckily we only have a handful of browsers, so fine. Fine, okay. Now what else would you, now that you have clarity of the requirement here, there was some requirement gap, right? Now we know this should be bold. This should be hyperlink. And when we click on this, this should take you to the next page, right? When we click on this, where do we go? We land on the register page. You see? So would you create scenarios for those or no?
As you said, to stick with the requirements. The requirement is not asking you to do anything with the hyperlink, so you should just stick with the.
No, but you asked these questions, those questions, and I have explained those requirement to you. So now those requirements are part of it. Now I have changed, look at this, I have changed this already. I have changed it to bold, right? And now I made this one as hyperlink. So now you have to verify those as well, because it's already addressed. Does it make sense or no?
Okay, so once we've told them that the hyperlink is missing or it's not bold, then we're responsible for testing the hyperlink as well.
Well, they should update this requirement and put it here.
Okay.
And which I did here, right? In this case, I have done it, right? And this is also, you know, I changed the color to make it look like hyperlink. So let's assume this is a hyperlink, right? So these two scenarios are simple. Let's not spend time going there. All you have to say, verify that this part of the messages are bold and this is a hyperlink, two different scenarios. And that should cover this requirement as a whole. I want to spend some more, before we move on, are there any questions about requirement 2?
So we
sure.
don't check the hyperlink, or do you check the hyperlink?
Sorry, can you repeat your question again?
Do you check the hyperlink or you don't?
You have to check. Yeah, you have to check every little thing. No one is going to test it for you. You need to test it.
So you make another test. You make another test case again, right?
You make couple more scenarios. You make couple more scenarios. One with verify this part of your text is bold, and this is a hyperlink. You're going to add 2 more scenarios. And just like how I'll let you guys do that. Just like how we took this, right? From here to your test cases. This is your test case, right? This is your scenario 1. This is your scenario 2. And sorry, this is your scenario 1. This is your scenario 2. Test case number 4 here. Test case number 5 there. And this is pretty straightforward. So if you're doing, okay, paste it here. Open the Chrome, click on the sign-in page, question on the sign-in page. All you're doing, you're verifying that this text message exists. So you're just pasting it here, verify, verify below text message. That's it, verify below text message displays. Done. Your 1 scenario is done. Your 2nd scenario is done as well.
Brother, I have a question.
Sure, brother.
Since you updated the requirements for the hyperlink there, and clicking in that hyperlink, like, taking us to the register page. The register page, there are many buttons and text field. So here, after clicking, only we have to check or test that is taking to the register page. That's all, right?
So you have to understand your scope of your requirement. What is your scope of your requirement? It's not saying you go here and test this functionality. It's not saying that. It's not saying that. As part of this requirement. So you have to understand your requirement first, and then you go into action. So your requirement is limited to this page only, sign on page. That's it, done. You see? It's done. Is it clear?
I have a question here.
Yeah.
In the requirement, it says, fill out the registration form. Didn't say, go to the registration form. It says, fill out. That means I have to fill out, verify this.
Where do you see?
Please fill out the registration form in requirements.
Where?
Yeah, in then hyperlink.
It's in parentheses. It's saying that these texts should be there. It's not necessarily telling you to do those actions.
But you're talking about this one?
Yeah, in the requirements
No,
part.
but this is your application's functionality. You have to understand this is not your requirement. This is your application's functionality. Does it make sense? This is text from your application. This is application's functionality.
No, I'm saying about the requirements part in the other page. Go to the right side. Yeah.
Hold on. What do you think this is? This is your application functionality. Read from here.
Okay.
This page shall have below text message displaying on the sign-on header. This is your requirement. Your requirement is saying this is the expected functionality of your application. This exact thing would be written in your application.
Okay, now I got it. Yeah. Okay, now.
These are good questions. You have to understand scope of your requirement. And once you understand scope of your requirement, you will know what to do, what exactly actions you need to perform. So I have something very important right after this one. Are we clear on the requirement 2?
Yeah.
Cool. So
I had something to say about the please fill out the registration form. That can be a requirement number 3, right?
It is requirement number 3. If you look at this, you see requirement
yeah, it
number
is.
functionality.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go there, and that's why I need a lot more time to explain all of this. Okay, so this is good. You guys are concerned about the future functionality, which is good, but we are getting there in a second. Now, what I wanted to educate you here is when you see a requirement written, do not think automatically it is complete. So that's why I have some broken requirement here. I have some incomplete requirement here. So you raise those questions so you understand you're already getting the practice done. When you go to actual work, just because BA worked on something and gave you a document or a JIRA ticket, do not think it's complete. You need to raise your flag. You need to raise and ask them questions, which you have done here. So moving on from requirement 002. So whenever your answers comes back and they make some changes, understand those are also within the scope of the requirement and you have to test it, right? Since, you know, we are just practicing here, I'm not going to go test this one and this part because it's going to cost me another 10 minutes, which I would like to save to give you guys understanding of the following 2 requirements. Are we cool with that, guys?
Yes.
Great. So now, just like here, register form. So if we click on this, we move to this page. And this is where our next requirement comes into play. Register page functionality. Register page is right here, this functionality. This is your homework, guys. Next week, it's going to be hands-full for all of you. And it's very, very important you do all of this thoroughly so that you become a good tester. It's very, very important. So please take notes, please listen carefully. So next week, you're going to be designing test cases for this entire page. And this page has sign up functionality, which includes username and password. These are the most critical functionality of an application. So please pay attention. If you do not have to speak, I'll mute you and feel free to ask questions if you have. All right, so register page functionality is requirement 003. We are saying register page shall have this message when navigated to the register page. So we are saying when we go to register page, this messages must be present, which is this right here, right? Which is this. So this is your one scenario, scenario number 1. Now, obviously, when you have the requirement, first you break them into different scenarios, multiple scenarios. Try to come up with as many scenarios as possible. And now, under register page, your contact information section, and here it's that. And on that, we have first name field. We're saying first name field is an input box. An input box. Okay. Guys, again, please stay muted. All right, first name functionality is an input box. Input box shall exist with user having ability to enter free text. Limit is 20 digit. So here we have multiple scenarios. We are saying first name field is an input box. So your first scenario is to verifying first name field is an input box, right? You're verifying this. The next thing, user having the ability to enter free text. What is free text? Enter anything you want, right? Enter anything you want. Now, and next thing is saying limit. Limit is 20 digits. So it's saying you should only be able to allow 20-digit characters there. So that you need to test. Similar thing is on the last name field. Exact same thing. Phone number. Input box again with user having ability to enter only numbers. So here you have multiple scenarios, right? And even there you have multiple scenarios. We're saying only 20 digit is allowed. So now you have to do negative, positive, boundary value scenarios when it comes to this testing. So what is negative scenarios? You're going to enter something with 21 digit, and that application shall not accept that application. The expectation is for application to throw you an error message saying, hey, 20 digit is not acceptable for this input box, or it should not just allow you to do that. Now, right now you're not testing, so don't go and put 20 digit and see if how it behaves. None of this, don't worry about it. You are only designing your test cases. This assume this application does not exist. You only have this diagram like right here. This is how you're going to be working in an actual environment. So but for you to understand better, so I'm giving you example of the real application. So you're saying this field exists, and then you're saying it's an input box, and user have the ability to enter free text, and the limit is 20 digit. So now you should create multiple scenarios here, like, one with maybe no digit, like 0, leave it blank. That's your negative scenario, because this is a mandatory field. The first name should be, all of this field is mandatory here. There's nothing optional. So your first test is like, fill out everything else, just leave first name field empty, and see if the application accepted. If it accepted, its application is not working as expected. So that's just a scenario you're going to write. You're not testing it, guys. Understand the difference. So you're going to write for this one a scenario with no characters there, leave it empty. Next one, you are going to create something with more than 200 digit to make sure that it doesn't take. These are your two different negative scenarios. And then lastly, you're going to put something within 20 digit and something maybe either 1 or 20 digit to verify all the scenarios. So similar things here. You have multiple scenarios you can write here. Input box shall exist with user having ability to enter. Input box exists with user ability to enter free text. So here we should say free text. And only numbers are supported in this field. So here you have multiple negative and positive scenarios. So you're saying only numbers are supported. So this field should not accept any of these characters. So that's your scenarios, negative and positive. Entering any other text type shall result into error message. And this is your phone number format, 10 digit, 0. No, you understand what I mean, right? Limit is 10 digit. So this is your phone number field. These are very crucial when you're testing and sensitive. So please pay attention when you're writing your test scenarios. Okay, email. Now, when it comes to email, we're talking about this one, input box shall exist with user having ability to enter free text. The limit is 20 digit. And continuing on the email, this field shall support all domains. Email format is name, whatever your email name is, and then @domain.com. So any kind of domain, Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, anything you can think of, it should be supported. So you can create multiple 4 or 5 scenarios here, right? Moving on to the next section, same thing, right? Almost everything is same. Here, we're talking about the country field is different. This is a drop-down field. It's not an input box. It's a drop-down field. User is able to select one country at a time. Make sense, guys?
Yes.
Cool. Now, that concludes this requirement 003. Moving on to 004.
Kadir,
Yeah.
I had a question on the contact information where it's talking about the phone number.
Yeah.
Now, the requirement stating that the user can only enter numbers.
Yeah.
But the error message is showing parentheses and hyphens.
Very good catch, brother. Very good catch, So this is also done purposely to see your knowledge, right? This is not number, right? These are parentheses and dash here. So these 2 special characters are allowed. Other than that, anything else, everything else should result into an error message. So
I'm assuming that the space would also be allowed then?
yes.
Okay.
Thanks for those questions. Okay, so next thing is what? Okay, so this is your, Next thing is username and password functionality. Very, very, very crucial. This is where, you know, security of your application comes into play. Now, if you do not test this properly, anyone can break your application, and that's a no-no. So you want to spend as much as time here to make sure that you're testing it thoroughly. So let's read through it. Username, input box shall exist without having ability to enter free text. Password field, input box shall exist with user having ability to enter free text. So we're just talking about this two field, right? I forgot to enter confirm password field. So we can do the same here. Maybe we have it here somewhere. Password requirement. So we can just add this here. Okay, fine. So this is done. Now, okay, so this is the requirement of your username field. So we're saying, so see how many different scenarios you have to come up with. We're saying username must be unique. And how do you test this one? How do anyone has any idea from the new batch? How would you test a unique requirement, unique username? Remember, we talk about unique, precise, testable, bounded, consistent. All of this thing comes into play here only. So let's talk about unique. How would you test an unique requirement, unique username?
You would create an account with the username, and then you would try to create a new account with the same username to see if it works.
Exactly. Shouldn't work, right?
It shouldn't work, no.
Yeah, so same username, enter it twice to see if that application allows you to create username with the same name. It shouldn't. They maintain a database, and database have all the records saved, so it should throw an error message saying, hey, this username already exists. And you guys, all of you are familiar with this situation. So that's one scenario. Must be at least 8 characters, but not more than 10. So how many scenarios would you be writing for this username field?
4.
Yeah, which 4?
Less than 8 characters, more than 10 characters, and then will be 8 characters and 10 characters.
I would say 8 characters and 1 in between.
Oh yeah, 1 in between. Yeah, so 5.
5 without, and also like, you know, 1, I would do like 1 without entering anything, like empty value. Okay, cool. You can use letters, numbers, periods, and at the right symbol. So these are the characters allowed. So now that's mean only this special character is allowed, and all the other is special characters are not allowed. So you have to do positive and negative scenarios here. You can do mix and match. You could do only letters. You could do only numbers. You can mix and match these things. So for probably 5, 6 here. Now usernames are not case sensitive. 2 should be good enough here. If any of the above criteria does not match, then the application must display an error message and user shall not be able to log into the application. This is the end result. So this is username, and this is the entirety of username functionality. We're going to do password. It's even more crucial. Password between 6 and 8, right? You know, obviously you're doing 5, 6 at least here. Scenarios must contain at least 1 letter, 1 number, and 1 special character. So here, these are must. So here you probably could write 10 different scenarios. Spaces are not allowed here. Password are case sensitive. So here you can write 5, 6, and number of scenarios. Do not make password same as the username. Field shall only have encrypted values. So obviously passwords must be encrypted. And same thing here, if those above criteria are not met, user should be getting an error message. And then lastly, user shall only be able to sign into the application if have an existing created account. So this, if you look at these two requirements, guys, if we can achieve this in 1 week, you guys are good enough to go get a job. Now I need, and I would request you guys to please don't be lazy. Please work on this. I know it's a lot of work. It's a stressful situation. And if I ask you, how do you handle stress? How would you answer that? Anyone from the new batch? Are you able to answer? How would you? This is stress. This is stressful situation. As a new tester, for me, it's not a stress. 1 hour job. But for you guys as a new tester, first time you're writing test cases, obviously this is stress. Looking at this, I could come up with 60 to 80 scenarios. I could come up with 60 to 80 scenarios. When you're writing 60 to 80 scenarios first time, wouldn't you be stressed out? My question to you, how would you handle stress?
I guess the way to approach this assignment is to do it piece by piece, like maybe spread it out over some time.
Okay. Anyone else?
Making sure to just start, because this procrastinating is a big test in itself, or stress in itself.
Okay.
I think we should take it as an opportunity, because if we can make it, that will bring us more confident that yes, in real time we can do it. So it's an opportunity for us.
Absolutely. And all of you guys are right with your answers. When you see a stressful situation, you never want to look at it as a whole. You want to break it down into little pieces. So for example, like, I'm looking at this whole thing and it's going to give me a headache. So I'm not going to look at it. I'm just going to read through everything and try to make sense out of it. And then I'll try to break it into small pieces. For example, let's work with this scenario first. Forget about everything else. I'm going to work with this scenario, tackle it, and make sure it's done. And then I'll move on to next one. So here, probably I have 20, 30 scenarios. I'm not going to look at everything at once. I am just focused on this one field. Once that is done, and then I'm going to move past that one. So break your task into little ones so you can handle it rather than attacking everything at once. Be organized, spend some time here. You can do group work, you can do individual work, but my request to you guys, do your job properly, do it thoroughly. You have, I'll share a video right now with you about how to write test cases in details, how to come up with maximum scenarios. Your job is to break this application. And how do you break it? By writing different test scenarios. And if you're not able to create multiple scenarios, different scenarios, unique scenarios that no one else thought of, you're not a good tester. And that's a practice we need to do here. Okay, so I'm going to show you something really quick. While I do this, interview test cases. All right, guys, so this video, please watch it twice. This guy looks boring, but he is good. He is really good. So let me do it. Let me send it here. Please remember to watch it. All right, I'm going to stop recording and open the floor for any questions you may have.